y'all, it's your girl Jocelyn back in the cut with another video. I know that I've been pretty MIA off YouTube for a pretty long time. I think it's been a little over a year, and the reason for that is because in January I welcomed my beautiful baby girl Nadia, and I hadn't documented like any of my pregnancy, any of the labor and delivery part, just because I really wanted to take in my whole pregnancy and enjoy it and not like worry about trying to make content. So I wanted to come on here and just be raw and honest about my experience and what I went through during my pregnancy and the labor and delivery and all that kind of stuff, and not to like scare any expectant mothers, but just to be honest about the things that I feel like are not talked about. So I want to give a quick disclaimer and say that I am in no way, shape, or form saying that this will be your experience. I'm just saying what mine is and the things that I wish I knew before having a baby, because I feel like they're not talked about. So, all right, and now we're gonna get on right to the video. So the first thing I want to start off with is just giving a quick backstory on how I found out that I was pregnant. So 2 days before I found out, I had took a pregnancy test because I was having symptoms that kind of were like red flags for me. Like the first thing is I had what I now know as implantation cramps, which is like basically where the egg is like burrowing into your cervix or something like that. And at the time I didn't know that's what it was, but I just knew it wasn't a period cramp. For me, that was my first sign. And then my second sign was that we were in Steak and Shake and I had got like overly emotional. I had like a very strong sense of nostalgia that I just really could not explain. So I was like, yeah, all of this is not adding up. I am a pretty emotional person like on my period, but randomly not on my period. Yeah, I knew something was up. So once we were done eating, I went to the store and bought like a pack of pregnancy tests. It comes with 2 in a box. One is like the little strip line test and the other one is a digital. First, I did the strip test and it said negative. So I didn't think anything of it, but I did leave it on my table for some odd reason. Fast forward 2 days later, me and my fiance were like, let's drink, take the edge off. We just got off work. So he walked to the store really quick to get him something to mix with his liquor. And I was cleaning up and kind of like, setting our drinks up. And I looked at the test from 2 days prior and I noticed that the results had changed. It went from being negative to a very faint line. And I remember reading on the back of the box that like you're not supposed to keep the test because the result can change. However, it's not going to change to a positive unless it detects something in your pee. So my heart kind of dropped a little bit and I was like, okay, let me take the other one, the digital one. And I took it and the result was taking forever to pop up. And I did exactly what I did the first time. I sat it on the table and forgot about it. And when I came back to look at the test, it was still loading. And so I just stared at it. Once I stared at it, it popped up, yes. I don't think I've ever been that shocked in my life. Like my world literally stopped. At that point, I was like, no, I have to tell Tyreek. I can't wait. I can't make this a surprise. I have to tell him now. So I looked at his location and he was walking back. I got to the door to go out. He was coming in and I was like, come outside. I was like, Tyreek, I'm pregnant. I just took a test. I'm pregnant. And his mouth just dropped open and he was like, I do it. I do it. And I was like, you knew it. So needless to say, he was very excited. He was very happy. I was too. So I'm not gonna lie, as a couple of days went on, the ecstaticness that I had at first like went away. All I felt was anxiety, fear, guilt. I felt a lot of different things because I was just like, I am not in the position that I want to be in to welcome a child right now. It's like just having a lot of feeling of I can't do this. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Me and Tyreek are both only children. So it's just like, how do we go from being only children to raising a child? You know what I'm saying? I don't know nothing about this. I don't know how to do this. So that was kind of like where my head was at right after I found out. So that's the little backstory on how we found out that we were expecting. Now I kind of want to get a little more into what my pregnancy was like and the things that I went through during my pregnancy, just mentally, emotionally, spiritually, that kind of thing. So the first thing that I want to say is that my job, I kind of felt like I didn't really get much grace from my job. Prior to being pregnant, I had already felt unsupported. I had feeling kind of like, I'm ready to switch careers, but now being stuck in it because I'm pregnant, it was scary and it was a lot. Realistically, our finances are not enough for me to be a stay-at-home mom right now. So that's just a little bit of insight on like the job situation, just feeling very unsupported, overworked, underpaid. Now I'm battling like, well, what do I want to do as a career? What does maternity maternity leave looked like, because I worked 2 jobs. So I ended up going PRN on my CNA job and committing to the job that I did full time, which was, I worked at a school. I was basically like a receptionist at a school that I attended as a kid. So it was pretty cool, but it was very smart that I did that because the job that I went full time at had FMLA. And if you're not sure what that is, it's basically unpaid maternity leave. And it basically like protects your job while you're on maternity leave and like kind of guarantees that you'll still have a job once you're back from maternity leave. So I had racked up PTO and I had lots of donated PTO hours. So I was able to have like 4 months of maternity leave paid. Now I want to get into the dynamic of me and my now fiance's relationship, because I want to just be raw and honest about the fact that pregnancy changes your relationships. Me and him went through a really rough patch during my pregnancy. The late term of my pregnancy, when it was the absolute worst. Like, it was horrible. I am in no way, shape, or form throwing my fiance under the bus, but it was bad. Like, it was bad. We were going through it. We were nitpicking all the time. Like, it got bad to the point where we always had to have intervention. We always had to have somebody like separate us or give advice. Like, it got bad. Going from where I feel unsupported at my job, then it was kind of like I'm coming home and feeling a little unsupported, you know, so it was a whole big thing. Now, I won't lie, everything is amazing now. We are the healthiest that we've been in a very long time, but I just want to put that out there that your relationships do change. Something that men need to be very aware of is that your woman is going to change. She's going to change physically, she's going to change mentally and emotionally, and it's a hormonal thing. So men just need to, you know, have that on standby, that your woman is going to be different than how she was when you met her. And us women already have a hard time kind of grasping onto that. So no need to make the woman feel any more bad about her being different. And that was something that me and my fiance used to kind of get into it about. Like, it was so hard for him to adapt to me being different, and it was hard for me to adapt to me being different. Our relationship was tested on a whole nother level. Test is like the nice word for it, but we were tested and our love was tested. Me and him had went from being like this fun couple. We go out of town every weekend, we drop everything we're doing and have a beach day. I mean, we drink, we have fun. Like, it went from that to like stretching our money and being extremely smart about our money and not going anywhere, not doing anything. Like, that was just our daily. Things are much better now, but like I said, that's how it was then. Next thing that I want to get into is how hard it has been trying to adapt to the body changes that happens to you during pregnancy, postpartum. Right now, I am currently 5 months postpartum, and I have about 30 pounds to lose before I am back to my pre-pregnancy weight. It's been hard to get it off because I'm breastfeeding, and so the weight just kind of stays on. I am at the point where I kind of want to stop breastfeeding because I'm like, you know, I've been doing it 5 months. My milk supply is nowhere near what it used to be, so she still has to formula feed, and I just kind of feel like, you know, I'm ready to get the weight off. So sometimes I have guilt though about me not really wanting to breastfeed anymore, mostly for the reason that I want to shake this 30 pounds, 30, 25, like, you know. Next, postpartum hair loss. My God. So nobody really warned me that postpartum hair loss peaks at around 3 to 4 months postpartum. Nobody told me that, because since I didn't have any in the beginning, I was like, wow, like, I must not have it. I could not have been more wrong about anything in my life. So that was really hard for me to deal with, because I'm literally pulling clumps of hair out of my head. That was extremely hard. And eventually I got to the point where I kind of wanted to take my power back, and I was like, instead of me watching my hair fall out and change and be brittle, I'm just gonna cut it off. And that's what I did. Sometimes obviously I miss the length, but I choose health over length. So that was something else that I wish people would have told me, is that it doesn't happen immediately, and that you have a lot of hair growth during your pregnancy, so you think that like, oh, it's gonna stay like that. But it's funny because me and my baby going through hair loss. My baby, you know, she kind of had that shedding phase, so it's like, you know, I don't feel alone. This goes along with my next point that I want to make, is that I wish that someone would have told me, do not stop taking your prenatals, even after you've already had your baby. Even if you're 4, 5, 6 months postpartum, keep taking your supplements. Biotin, collagen, vitamin E, magnesium, iron, because all of those things contribute to hair loss or changes in your skin or brittle nails. Like, I had struggled with having brittle nails for a long time. The hair loss, my skin, and my nails were 3 main things that I dealt with like severely after having my baby. So I wish that somebody would have told me, do not stop taking your prenatals. So now I want to get into the most important part for me, which was the labor and delivery experience. I ended up going past 42 weeks. My baby was due in December, but I ended up being induced January 13th of 2026. When I had like my 38-week appointment, they were kind of like, you know, do you want to be induced? And I was like, yes, because over it is the nice way that I could put that. I was over it. So they pretty much told me they could go ahead and get me scheduled for an induction, but that if an emergency comes up with another woman that needs it more than me, that I would be pushed last. And even that I really didn't understand, because I was technically a medical emergency. I mean, I went past 42 weeks. They told me that she literally had almost no more fluid left in her sac. And when she came out, her skin was dry. We dealt with her dry skin for weeks. Like, it did not go away for weeks. I think she was like 2-3 months old by the time it had completely went away. So me and my fiance already had both our bags packed, the diaper bag packed, we had everything packed, and we went on to the hospital. Once I got there, I took a shower and we started the process by 8 o'clock. So they had came in and explained to me that they're gonna put a Foley, also known as a balloon, in my cervix to slowly open me up and dilate my cervix. I got my cervix checked before that. I was not dilated at all. I was 0 centimeters dilated. I am almost 43 weeks pregnant and I'm not dilated at all. They put the Foley in and it was not painful, but it was very, very, very uncomfortable and very, very invasive. The process happened very quick. My water broke within 15 minutes of having the Foley in. I had to get up to pee and it just, and my fiance called them and was like, hey, I think her water just broke. They were like, all right, you good to go. You're good to walk around. And I did that and contractions picked up quick. Because I didn't want to get an epidural so quick because I knew it was going to slow the progress down. I got like the laughing gas. I don't know what it's called exactly, but I had got that. And it worked for the beginning. And then it slowly was like, I don't want to do this shit no more. And I was getting dizzy because I was inhaling it too much. My contractions went from being 3 minutes apart to 2 minutes apart to 1 minute apart, all within an hour. And so I told the lady I need an epidural now. So they were like, let's check your cervix and see where you're at right now. And when they checked it, I was 5 centimeters dilated, and they was like, all right, let's go ahead and give you the epidural. This is where things get a little bit crazy in the story, because what I did not know at the time is the girl that put my epidural in, she was a resident there, and understand that they have to do it to learn. But I wish that I was given the, like, hey, do you mind if a med student does your epidural? Because I probably wouldn't let it happen. I just want to give that, a heads up that if you're not comfortable with a med student doing it, you can very much express that to nurses and doctors that, hey, I don't want any students to be in the room when I'm pushing, because you can very much tell them that. So what I'm about to tell you guys is coming from my fiance's perspective. Obviously, I don't know what's going on because she's doing it in my back. So I don't know about any of this. This is just what my fiance told me happened. I'm sitting upright just like this and she's doing my epidural, and all I felt was a little tiny pinch where she put like the numbing agent. Apparently after that first initial prick, I got pricked 3 times after that with the epidural. So apparently what happened was when she went to put the epidural in the first time, she messed up. And the only reason he knew that was because he looked at her and her eyes were big, like she messed up. So that happened. She pulled it out, did it again, pulled it out, did it one more time. I don't know what's going on. All I know is that it's taking forever and my contractions are speeding up and I am in so much pain. I can't even talk. Like, it was bad. But once the pain came down, I was finally able to enjoy the rest of the process. So I was in labor for about 18 hours, and just like I knew would happen, my labor slowed down a lot. I stayed at 5 centimeters dilated for hours. I can't even tell you how long. We get to the next day and he checks my cervix and he's like, oh, you're 10+2. And I was like, push. He was like, oh my God, I feel hair. Like, I feel hair. And I was like, oh, that was crazy. I pushed for maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes is really a stretch, but I think I pushed for about 10 minutes and she slipped right on out. I didn't feel anything. Like, they kept telling me, all right, push. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm pushing. Like, I can't feel anything. So I'm like, am I pushing right? All I felt when she came out was pressure in my butt. It wasn't painful. It was just like, ooh, what is that? I heard her cry. And I was like, oh my God. They kept asking me while I was pushing if I wanted a mirror, like if I wanted to see it. And I kept telling them, why would I want to see that? no thank you. Nothing else mattered to me in that moment but just being this baby's mother and giving her unconditional love, being there for her. And so that was all I was thinking about in that moment. I wish that I looked pretty, like, to take pictures. Some people go like, oh, you look fine. No, I did not. I looked absolutely horrific. I looked like I got hit by a truck. Like, it was bad. And the braids that I had in, that's a whole nother story. I'm gonna actually tell the tea. On that because yeah, but the braids that I had in was already in 3 weeks before I had her, because, you know, I did the braids for her due date, but she ended up coming 3 weeks after her due date, so it was just a lot. But yes, my baby is a Capricorn, and yes, you know, we love them Capricorn. She was supposed to be a Sag, but she's a Cap, so period. So now I want to get into what I suffered with after having my baby. So the first 24 hours after having my baby, I was on cloud 9. I felt absolutely no pain. I felt perfectly fine. And my downstairs area did not hurt at all. No soreness, no nothing. And when I felt it, you know, to gently clean, it was a little swollen, but it didn't feel anything out of the normal. So I was like, wow. And they were actually shocked about how easy I was getting around. I was moving when I had an epidural. I was moving right after I had my baby. 5 minutes after I had my baby, I got out of the bed and I was walking and peeing and all of that. They were shocked to see that. The next day, all right, we go home. I'm feeling perfectly fine. I'm feeling amazing. In fact, I'm not even gonna lie. I told my fiance, take me to the smoke shop and get me a vape because I need something right now. Following day, 2 days after I had my baby, I started getting headaches, really bad headaches. Then at that point, I remembered when my doctor told me, if you start feeling headaches, give it about 2 or 3 days. It should go away. And if it doesn't, come back. As days progressed, I waited 6 days after I had my baby to finally go back to the hospital for the headaches I was having. Days progressed and I was trying to give it more time for, you know, everything to heal or go away or whatever. It was literally getting worse and worse and worse. And so what I came to find out is that I had a postdural puncture headache. And what that is when she was doing my epidural, she went too far in and poked my spinal cord, and so all of my spinal fluid was leaking out of the hole where I had got my epidural. Your brain is not just in your head, it's in your head floating around in spinal fluid. So my spinal fluid is leaking out of where I got my epidural at, and so my brain, this is my brain, it's sitting on the base of my skull like this, instead of like floating around, woo, woo, woo. It's doing like this. It's not like the headache, like, oh, I had too much caffeine or I had too much salt. It was very, very, very beyond painful. So I go on back to the hospital to get it patched up. I had a epidural blood patch, which is what I just said. They patch up a hole in your back by taking blood from your veins and putting it in, you know, where they did the epidural at, and it seals up the leak. The lady that had did my epidural came and she had apologized to me. She was like, I am so sorry. I did not mean to do that. It was just a lot going on. There was a lot of pressure on me and you were kind of moving, you know, so I was like, it's fine. It's okay. In my head, and I didn't say this out loud, but I'm thinking to myself, I hope you ain't gonna be the one doing this procedure. It wasn't really painful, but there was a lot of poking, a lot of prodding, a lot of pinching, you know, taking blood from my arm and putting it in my back. I kept trying to find like the hole, so it was a lot, but I ended up getting it and the results were immediate. I mean, I had not felt that much relief in days. Something that I also had forgot to mention with these headaches is that the only thing that makes them better is laying down. That's it. And I'm like, I can't lay down 24/7. I have a newborn that I have to care for, and my fiance is back at work, so I'm the only one to take care of her right now. So I can't lay down in the bed all day, every day. So you can imagine that when I'm supposed to be laying down, I'm up on my feet, making bottles, burping her, walking her around, changing, you know, all the things that you cannot do laying down. The healing process was amazing. I mean, I did great, no problems, no bleeding. I did bleed for a pretty long time after having my baby, but you know, other than that, everything was great. Just the things that I wish I knew I could have said no to if it made me uncomfortable was that I could tell them that I don't want med students in my room or doing any procedures on me. Keep taking prenatals even after having your baby. I wish that someone would have told me about postpartum anxiety, because no one talks about postpartum anxiety. I always hear about postpartum depression, but I never suffered from postpartum depression. I only suffered from postpartum anxiety, which I'm still struggling with to this day. Like intense worry or feeling kind of like paranoia. I'll be in the grocery store and I'll see somebody looking at me and I'm like, why are they looking at me? Why are they looking at me? Like, you know, I kind of freak out a little bit. I wish that someone would have told me the risk of having an epidural, because I never even knew that that was a risk. And I wish that they would have told me that while I was at the hospital, like, hey, this is what happened to you. You know, we accidentally went too far with your epidural. Because they never told me that they accidentally punctured anything. They just said you might start having headaches. You know, it's a side effect of an epidural. No, that's not. There's not no side effect to that. Y'all just fucked me up. I wish that someone would have told me that your relationship does change. Not always in a bad way, but it is gonna be different. And I just wish that someone would have told me so I didn't have such unrealistic expectations about myself or about Tyreek, you know, and our relationship. And I wish that people would have told me about postpartum hair loss, because obviously it's something that you hear about, but you don't hear that it peaks at 3 or 4 months, sometimes even 5 months. So you could have went 3-4 months postpartum not having any hair loss, and then it just happens and your hair texture changes. Like, my hair texture is a lot different than how it used to be. So yeah, y'all, those are all of the things that I wish I would have known before having a baby. Hopefully some expecting mothers will find some part of this video useful. I also got to be to work literally in 9 minutes. I have to be there at 2:30. So let me go ahead and get ready. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Please be sure to subscribe and hit that post notification bell so you'll be notified every single time that I post a video. And I will see you guys next week. I'm gonna try to upload weekly. All right, y'all. Bye.